Yes, hello friends, good evening. Am I audible? Please somebody ping me if I'm audible so that I can start the session. Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. Let's crack UPSC CSE English. Now, before I start the session, let me introduce myself for the people who are new on the platform. My name is Alok Ojha. I have done my engineering from Pune. I have been associated with the field of UPSC since past 7 years. I hold the experience of giving CDS SSB twice. I also hold the experience of exams like CAPF, Assistant Commandant and Uttar Pradesh PSC. I'm involved into the field of teaching since past 5 years and I've mentored more than 10,000 aspirants for UPSC. Now there might be a question in the mind of an aspirant why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. So here are the ample of reasons why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. First of all, you'll have daily live classes on the Unacademy platform. Unacademy offers you assimilation of top and dynamic educators of India on a single platform. You can directly interact with the educators. You can clear all sorts of doubts with the educators. Second most important aspect, Unacademy helps to build up your competence by going through live tests and quizzes. And why competence or competitive is necessary, I have already talked about this. Like each year, approximately around 1 million aspirants aspire for civil services and hardly 800 to 1000 make into the final list. So one aspirant is competing with 800 to 1000 other aspirants. And that is why it is necessary to build up that sort of competence or competitiveness. And Unacademy helps to build up your competence or competitiveness by going through live tests or quizzes. All the courses on Unacademy platform are highly structured in nature and there is a proper timetable through which the courses are being conducted. And one can have unlimited access to the courses on Unacademy platform. Today we are going to discuss the important topics, that is important acts from 1773 to 1947. We are going to discuss only those acts which are very important from the exam perspective. Either it be the prelims or either it be the mains. It also includes various press act. These are the few top and dynamic educators of India from whom you're going to learn through. Now, Unacademy helps to cover your syllabus in a very comprehensive manner. Like it covers each and every aspect of the syllabus ranging from polity, history, geography, economics, science and technology. In fact, it also covers a wide range of optional subjects ranging from basically humanities part to the part of literature. Like there is a proper NCERT based classes, then NCERT summary would be given, there would be strategy and practice sets, plus there would be special doubt clearing sessions and answer writing courses. There is something called as iconic subscription. Now what is majorly iconic subscription all about? Now during the initial days the preparation is completely haphazard. And now the aspirant is basically confused that what should I read? Where should I start my preparation from? Should I prefer NCERT? How should I start reading the Hindu or the Indian Express newspaper? What is the importance of government magazine? What is the importance of answer writing technique? So there would be a mentor who would be guiding you throughout your journey for civil services preparation. That is majorly iconic subscription all about. So if you choose me as your mentor, please use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Now, the fees for the optional for 12 months, that is 1 year, is 24,750, and fees for the after discount, that is after 10% discount, actually it is 27,500. Now, Unacademy has come up with Unacademy Combat. That is, it is one of the basically battles where one can test his knowledge, where one can test his caliber to appear in the civil services exam. Now, the contest format goes like the previous one itself. Like you have 45 minutes, you have 60 questions, there are 13 combats, and it is divided into 6 sections. There would be a relative scoring, and relative scoring will help you out basically in understanding what is the level of preparation that an aspirant right now is having and how he needs to build up that sort of competence or competitiveness. Because I have told you previously itself what is the importance of competitiveness. Rank 1 to 3 would be getting 3 months GS Plus subscription, and rank 4 to rank 150 would be getting rupees 1000 Amazon vouchers. There are new batches which are targeting for 2021, 2022 and 2023, which are being starting, and these batches have been run by the total experts, dynamic experts of the Unacademy. There are special batches for prelims as well, and there are batch courses for on yearly basis as well. So please do subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. There can be a probable iconic subscription hike. Okay. These are the special classes conducted by me previously. Okay, guys. Yes, Monisha, good evening. Yes, Ashok, good evening. Vinod, good evening. Yes, Sai, good evening. Yes, Sai, thanks. Yes, Subhasri, good evening. Ram Babu, good evening. Yes, I'll be starting Medieval India classes very soon. Yes, Pooja, good evening. Seema, good evening. Laksh, good evening. Okay. Now, this is a sort of a revision for the guys who have attended my sessions previously. But those who have skipped the lessons of medieval modern India, I'm going to take important acts which are very, very important from the exam perspective. Now you need to focus properly so that each and every doubt of yours would be clear. I'm going to cover all the British Indian Acts, that is Administrative Act, as well as the Press Act. Okay. Yes, Purushottam, good evening. I'm fine. Yes, Akshay, hello. Now listen to me. Portuguese were the first to arrive in India, and from the side of Portuguese was Vasco da Gama, who first landed on the west coast of India. Like, to be very specific, he came at a place called as Calicut, and he met a local Eradi dynasty ruler whose name was Zamorin. Now, Zamorin welcomed this person, Vasco da Gama, but Zamorin was not satisfied with the gifts that was brought by Portuguese Vasco da Gama for him. And at that point, the trade was being monopolized or dominated by the Arabs. When Vasco da Gama left for his country, immediately Arabs filled the ears of Zamorin, and the Arabs told Zamorin that the Portuguese are pirates and they have come to plunder your country and loot your country. After Vasco da Gama came Pedro Cabral in India, and he started establishing settlements all over India. The most important Portuguese Governor General who came to India was Albuquerque. Like, it is said that he not only wanted to trade with India, he also wanted to establish permanent settlements in India. It is said that he started first mint in Goa. Goa became the epicenter of all the Portuguese activities in the British India. He is also regarded as cultural ambassador of Portugal and what we say India. It is said that he was the first person to ban sati in the region of Goa. So he made a lot of administrative changes in the region of Goa and to certain parts of Western India. Now, after Portuguese came Dutch, and after Dutch came English East India Company in India. Now, English East India Company is also referred as John Company. It is a shareholders company, and it is said that initially when the English East India Company was started, it approximately had 125 shareholders. And these 125 shareholders of English East India Company are referred as Court of Proprietors. Now, with the passage of time, English East India Company started having a very good control over the trade in India. In fact, they monopolized the trading activities in India, and they were controlling the trade on the west and the east coast of India. Now, they had established many factories on the west and east coast of India. Now, to take care or manage these factories, they required proper administrative setup. And now came various governor generals in India and various acts in India to manage the administrative and commercial affairs of English East India Company in India. Okay. My friends, did you get the background till here? Please let me know. Please keep the session active and interactive. If you have even a single doubt, please do ask me. Okay. Now let's get started with Regulating Act 1773. The name itself suggests what is the meaning of regulation. Regulation basically means to have a control. Control over what? Control over the activities of English East India Company. Now listen to me very, very carefully. At that point of time, there were three major presidencies: Bombay Presidency, Bengal Presidency, and Madras Presidency. And each presidency had a respective governor. The governor of Bombay was referred as Governor of Bombay. The governor of Madras was referred as Governor of Madras. But the governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal. And Governor of Bombay and Madras were subordinated to Governor General of Bengal. In very simple words, whatever rules and regulations were being framed by Governor General of Bengal needs to be followed by Governor of Bombay and Governor of Madras respectively. So in very simple words, Governor General of Bengal was what we say, he was in higher authority. He was one of the decision-making authority. And governors of Bombay and Madras were subordinated to Governor General of Bengal. Now listen to me. As I have told you previously, that English East India Company is a joint stock company. It is a shareholders company. And totally there are 125 shareholders in English East India Company. Now, 125 shareholders cannot be a part of decision-making process, or they cannot take immediate decisions. So now it is said that these 125 shareholders are going to choose 24 as court of directors among themselves. And these 24 court of directors are going to frame rules and regulation for the company, so that the decision making process becomes quite easier and the decision making process becomes quite faster. I'll repeat the point. These 125 shareholders of the company are referred as court of proprietors. Now these 125 shareholders are going to elect among themselves 24 as court of director. Now these 24 court of directors are going to frame rules and regulations for the company. Okay. Now initially it is said that the election for the 24 court of directors was held annually. That is every year. Now the election for these 24 court of directors is held every 4 years. And this is as per Regulating Act 1773. Now, as I have told you, Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal. So the first Governor General of Bengal was Lord Warren Hastings. I repeat, Lord Warren Hastings. Now to assist the Governor General in performance of his duty, there was an Executive Council, which is also referred as Governor General's Executive Council. And Warren Hastings' Executive Council had 4 members here. I repeat, it had 4 members here. Now, there was one system previously which is referred as dual government. Now, what is dual government all about? Listen to me patiently and carefully. Now, it is said that when any particular area is conquered, if any particular region is conquered, it is said that the administration of that region or the responsibility of administration of that kingdom was given to the ruler. And the entire commercial functions was being managed by English East India Company. I repeat, entire commercial functions was being managed by English East India Company. So there was a dual control or a dual government by now. And no proper administrative setup could be arrived out. And the reason is very simple. Because one is handling the administration, the other is handling the commercial functions. So there can be a mismatch in this. one cannot understand how much expenses needs to be incurred, how much expenditure is incurring on the military, how much expenditure is done on the civil subjects. So there is a complete mismatch here. So now to address this problem, Regulating Act 1773 came into fore. As per Regulating Act 1773, Supreme Court was established at Fort William in Calcutta. And the first judge of the Supreme Court was Sir Elijah Enfield. He was the first Chief Justice of India. And secondly, he was assisted by 3 other judges. Act also made it compulsory that any public servant who is enrolling into the service of the company, he has to disclose his property. Okay. Secondly, he cannot take any sort of gift. He cannot take any sort of bribe and present from any other person. Regulating Act. Are you understanding the point? In very simple words, the government or the company is trying to have a control over its public servants or the people who are working in the company. And it also made it compulsory for everyone. It also made it compulsory to renew the charter every 20 years. Okay, I'll repeat the important clauses. Please listen to me patiently and carefully. Okay, the first thing is basically to regulate the affairs of English East India Company. Secondly, now Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal, and Governor of Bombay and Madras were subordinated to Governor General of Bengal. Third major aspect, Supreme Court was established at Fort William. And Sir Elijah Enfield was the first Chief Justice, and he was assisted by 3 other judges in performance of his duties. Then it is said that basically the company's officials cannot take any sort of gift and bribes from anyone. And if they are involved in any such activities, a stern action would be taken by the company against such civil servant. The company made it compulsory to renew the charter every 20 years. That is, the law should be renewed every 20 years. Hope so the points are clear, my friends. Yes, good evening, Nandish. Guys, did you understand the point? Yes, this is what I have explained, Sai, about the dual government. That the administration was in the hand of whom? The administration was in the hand of a ruler, and the commercial functions was in the hand of the company. Okay? Yes, guys, did you understand the points? Please let me know. Yes, Nirali, the daily classes, basically some classes are there on YouTube and some classes are there as a part of special class. Okay? Yes, guys. Now listen to me further. Censorship of Press Act 1799. Now there was one person whose name was Lord Wellesley. Lord Wellesley was also one of the Governor General of Bengal. Now, it is said that he came up with the Press Censorship Act 1799, and the major purpose for Press Censorship Act was, at this point of time, French were also ruling over certain territories in India, and French were publishing something derogatory against the British interest. Now, this completely hampered the trade monopoly of the Britishers, which has been established over India, and it was completely against the interest of the Britishers. So now Lord Wellesley, who is also credited with creating one of the system which is referred as subsidiary alliance system. You might have studied that as a part of administrative setup. So Lord Wellesley, who is credited with creation of subsidiary alliance system, came up with Press Censorship Act 1799. And the major purpose for creation of Press Censorship Act was to stop the French from publishing anything which is derogatory against their interest, which is hurting their trade monopoly over India. And it covered all sorts of press publication, rather it be the newspaper, rather it be pamphlet, rather it be magazine, rather it be books or so on. But later on, this act was relaxed by one of the Governor Generals whose name was Lord Hastings. I repeat, Press Censorship Act 1799, which was initiated by Lord Wellesley, was finally relaxed by Lord Hastings. And this is a probable question in the prelims exam. And this has been asked in the prelims exam. Press Censorship Act 1799 was brought by. So it was brought by Lord Wellesley. Okay. Yes, guys, did you get the points? Pay attention properly. Okay. Now pay attention to this diagram so that you can easily understand the concept of Pitt's India Act 1784. Listen to me very carefully. Listen to me very patiently. Okay. Ashok, the dual system of governance was introduced by Robert Clive. Am I clear? Okay. English East India Company is a joint stock company and there are 125 shareholders in the English East India Company. Now these 125 shareholders are going to choose among themselves 24 as court of directors who are going to frame rules and regulation for the company. My friends, what word did I use? Among themselves. And if they are chosen among themselves, there is a probability of corruption. There is a possibility of mismanagement or maladministration. So now the Crown would be appointing Board of Control above Court of Directors. I repeat, the British Parliament will now be appointing Board of Control comprising of 6 members to closely have a look at the activities of English East India Company. In very, very simple words, Board of Control is now acting as a channel of communication between whom? Between the British Parliament and the Crown and the English East India Company. So Board of Control is nothing but a channel of communication between them. Now, initially the Court of Directors had the complete authority to send Governor Generals in India, governors of respective presidencies in India. But now this power was subsumed by whom? This power was completely being subsumed by Board of Control. So in very simple words, Board of Control acted as a channel of communication between the British Parliament and the Crown, British Parliament or the Crown and what we say English East India Company. And there was also something called a secret committee. Secret committee was a channel of communication between Court of Directors and Board of Control. If there is any chances of maladministration or mismanagement, if there is any sort of what we say corruption activities that are prevalent in the company, so secret committee will be informing about these activities to the Board of Control, and Board of Control will be informing to the British Crown or the Parliament. So in very simple words, now there is a dual control over English East India Company. That is direct control of Board of Control and an indirect control of the British Crown or the Parliament. Okay, as I have told you previously, there was an Executive Council of 4 members to assist the Governor General in performance of his duties. We have discussed this previously, that Governor General was assisted by 4 Executive Council members in performance of his duty. Now the Executive Council members were completely reduced and it was reduced to 3. As per Regulating Act 1773, it was 4 members. And as per Pitt's India Act 1784, it has come down to 3 members. And out of 3 members, one would be Commander-in-Chief of the King's Army. So now, in a very systematic manner, in a very dynamic manner or a step-by-step manner, Britishers are trying, or the British Parliament is trying to have a control over English East India Company. Okay. Now, if any person is joining for the service of the company, within 2 months he needs to disclose his property, because there can be, after joining, there can be a probable cases of corruption, because these people are continuously involved in receiving bribes and gift from the rulers and other people. That is why it was completely necessary to disclose your property before joining into the company's service. And company's territory in India was now called as British possessions in India. I repeat, company's territory was now called as British possessions in India. I will repeat the points again. Please pay attention properly. As per Regulating Act 1773, it was brought in to regulate or control the affairs of English East India Company in India. Now there is Pitt's India Act 1784, and now Board of Control has arrived above English East India Company. Board of Control has 6 members, and it will act as a channel of communication between the British Parliament and or the Crown and English East India Company. Now, the English East India Company will have a dual control above them. One was the control of Board of Control, and the second one was of Crown. Governor General's Executive Council initially had 4 members. Now, the Governor General's Executive Council will have 3 members, and one member would be what? One member would be Commander-in-Chief of the King's Army. Are the points clear? Please let me know. Did you understand the point, guys? Yes, guys, did you understand the points? So that I can move up with the next act. Okay, thank you. Charter Act 1813. Now listen to me very carefully. English East India Company was having a good control over the trade and commercial activities in India. Now it is said that rule of Napoleon has brought hard days for the traders in the European countries. And now these traders, specifically the traders of Britain, went to the Queen, went to the Crown and asked them that the monopoly of English East India Company in India should be ended, so that we can have trading contacts with India, or we can trade in India. Since there were hard days for the traders of what we say European countries, and specifically the traders of Britain and England, immediately the Crown passed an order that the monopoly of English East India Company in India would be ended henceforth. So as per Charter Act 1813, monopoly of English East India Company was ended. But, I repeat, but still monopoly of English East India Company remained intact, at least in 2 cases. That is, only English East India Company can trade with China, and only English East India Company can trade in a commodity called as tea. So although monopoly of English East India Company was ended, but monopoly of English East India Company remained intact in case of China and tea. Okay? But in very simple words, monopoly of English East India Company to an extent had ended. I have used the word to an extent, not completely ended. Okay. Second important aspect. Government has decided that every year, government is going to spend rupees 1 lakh for the purpose of education in India. Now listen to me very carefully. Initially, Britishers were not at all interested in educating the Indians. Now the civil servants basically came from London, and initially they were trained at Hailbury College in London. Now the civil servants were trained at Fort William College in Calcutta. Now, the salaries and the emoluments of the civil servants was quite high. The perks and privileges that was given to the civil servants was quite high. Their pension was also a burden on the exchequer. So now it was decided that why shouldn't we associate more number of Indians into the administrative services? Initially, they did not take any care about educating the Indians. But now, since the administrative efficiency and effectiveness was not up to the mark, and secondly, the salary, emolument, perks and privileges, pension of the civil servants that came from Britain was a burden. That is why now they decided that Indians should be educated so that we can associate more number of Indians into the administrative services. That is why it is said that every year it was decided that 1 lakh rupees would be spent for the purpose of education. And third important thing, Christian missionaries were allowed to come in India and preach Christianity. So these are the three major aspects which we need to remember about Charter Act 1813. First thing is the monopoly of English East India Company in India was ended, but monopoly remained intact in case of China and tea. English East India Company would be spending at least rupees 1 lakh for the purpose of education in India every year. And Christian missionaries were allowed to come in India and preach Christianity. Yes, guys, did you get the points? Yes, Ram Babu, I'll be starting with the Mughals very fast, very soon. Right now, I'm covering major lectures as a part of special class. Governor of Madras. Yes, guys. Okay. As I've told you previously, there were three major presidency. That is Bombay, Madras and Bengal. Now, Governor of Bombay was designated as Governor of Bombay. Governor of Madras was designated as Governor of Madras, but Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal. And Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of Bengal. With the passage of time, and this was as per Regulating Act 1773. But now, as per Charter Act 1833, Governor General of Bengal was now designated as Governor General of India. I repeat, Governor General of Bengal was now designated as Governor General of India. And the first Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. I repeat, Lord William Bentinck. Now, it is said that previously, as per Regulating Act 1773, there were 4 members as a part of Governor General's Executive Council to assist him in performance of his duty. Now, then came Pitt's India Act 1784. As per Pitt's India Act 1784, the Governor General's Executive Council was reduced to 3. And again, as per Charter Act 1833, Governor General's Executive Council was again increased to 4. Okay, so that there could be smooth functioning of the administration. The decision-making process will go a bit faster. Moving further, Indian Law Commission was set up under the chairmanship of Lord Macaulay for proper codification of law. And this was done as per Charter Act 1833. Then, it is said that Indians should also be allowed to be a part of administrative services. Like it is said that Lord Cornwallis, he was also one of the Governor Generals of Bengal. He had come up with a system of civil services. And he believed in one important concept that, like, there should be, like, initially, there was something called as recommendation into the company's service. Lord Cornwallis initially had completely ended the system of recommendations. I'll give you a very small example. Suppose I'm a civil servant and I'm working for the company. Now I'll recommend my son as a next SP or a district collector. So basically this was followed in the company's service, but now during the tenure of Lord Cornwallis, this system of recommendations was completely abolished or ended. But he believed in one thing, Europeanization of administrative machinery. No Indians were allowed to enter into the civil services. But as per Charter Act 1833, Indians were also allowed to enter into the civil services. And one of the major reasons for allowing the Indians was to improve the administrative efficiency, to improve the administrative effectiveness. Why? I'll give you a very small example. It's a very logical example. Suppose a civil servant is recruited in London. Now he'll be coming in India as a district collector or as an SP. And there is another person who is an Indian who is also recruited as a district collector. Will the person who is coming from London be more knowledgeable about the culture of India, tradition of India, then soil, geography of India, climate of India, or historical perspective of India, or the person from India would be more aware? Obviously, the person from India would be more aware. That is why, to improve the administrative efficiency, to improve the effectiveness in the administration, Indians were associated into the civil services, and this was done as per Charter Act 1833. Did you get the points, my friends? Please let me know. Any query, any question, any sort of doubt. Yes, guys. Am I audible properly? Is it buffering now? Okay. Did you understand the Act, Charter Act 1833? Now let's quickly move with Charter Act 1853. Okay. Now listen to me very, very carefully. It is the last Charter Act. Now why it is referred as the last Charter Act? Because immediately after this, the rule of company in India was completely ended. The rule of company in India was completely ended, and there was rule of British Parliament or Crown over India. Now, as per this act, legislative and the executive function of Governor General's Council was separated. I'll give you a very small example. Suppose if one is framing the law and the same person is implementing or executing the law, so what will happen basically here? There won't be proper execution, neither proper implementation of that policy. So here the functions were being completely separated. I have told you initially the number of court of directors was 24. I repeat, there were 125 shareholders in the company who were referred as court of proprietors. Now these 125 shareholders are going to elect among themselves 24 as court of director. This was as per Regulating Act 1773. Now the number of court of directors was drastically reduced to 18. Instead of 24, now there would be 18 court of directors. But the court of directors to an extent were given more powers. Like the court of director can veto any law which was passed by Governor General's Executive Council. I'll give you a very small example. Suppose a law is passed concerning military expenditure, and if the court of directors find that this law is derogatory towards the profit of the company, they can immediately veto such law. So court of directors was given this power. Secondly, court of directors were given the power to create any new presidency. Like for example, at that point of time, we had three major presidencies: Bombay, Bengal and Madras presidency. But court of directors were given the power that if they wish to, they can create one more presidency. Okay, then It is said that if any new territory was acquired, it was either added into the Bombay or Madras or Bengal presidency. And it is said that Bengal presidency, it became quite big, and it was quite impossible for a single governor general to take care of the administration of the entire big presidency. That is why it is said that Assam, central provinces and Burma were made as a separate province. And this was as per Charter Act 1853. Okay, the act made it compulsory that no recommendation for company service would be entertained, a proper examination for civil services would be conducted, and a person who has qualified the exam would be liable to serve in the company. This was as per Charter Act 1853. Did you get the points? Please let me know. Yes, Ram Kumar. Good evening. Yes, Ashok, I have already covered Charter Act 1833. I have told that as per Charter Act 1833, Governor of Bengal was now designated as Governor General of India. I have talked about these concepts. Yes, guys, did you get the points? I am covering the important acts now. Okay. Now let's talk about Licensing Act 1857. Listen to me very carefully. By now, each and every section of the Indian society was being completely exploited by the policies of the Britishers. And every section of the Indian society, rather it be artisan, rather it be peasant, to an extent certain zamindar, to an extent certain rulers, each and every section of the Indian society was economically being exploited by the policies of the Britishers. I'll give you a very simple example so that you can easily understand this. Now, there are various factors which led to revolt of 1857. Listen to me very carefully and patiently. Now, what are these factors? Let us understand. Now, there were three types of majorly land revenue settlement. One was Zamindari System, second was Rayatwari System, third was Mahalwari System. Under Zamindari System, Zamindar acted as a middleman between company on one hand and peasant on the other hand. In very simple words, English East India Company is not going to collect the revenue directly from the peasant under Zamindari System. Here, Zamindar would be collecting the revenue from the peasant and then he would be giving to English East India Company. Okay, Zamindar would be collecting the revenue from the peasant and further then he would be giving to the English East India Company. 89% of the revenue went to English East India Company. 11% was kept with the Zamindar. I'll give you a very small example. Suppose I am a peasant, I earn rupees 100, out of which approximately 90% went to the company. Okay, if I have to pay 70 rupees as a tax, out of 70, 63 rupees will go to the company, 7 would be kept by Zamindar, and there were many Zamindar who exploited the peasants more and extracted huge amount of money. Then came Rayatwari System. Under Rayatwari System, English East India Company directly collected the revenue from the peasant, but still the revenue was very high. It was approximately around 66% for the very good land, for a very fertile land. And then comes Mahalwari System, where revenue would not be taken by an individual farmer or individual peasant. The revenue would be taken by entire village, that is called as Mahalwari System or modified Zamindari. So the entire land revenue system was quite derogatory. Second thing, I'll give you a very small example. In a very systematic manner, India's resources were being drained out of India. I'll give you a very small example now. Listen to me carefully. Britishers introduced commercialized agriculture in India. One is subsistence agriculture and second one is commercialized agriculture. Suppose I am a farmer and I am practicing subsistence agriculture. I will produce only those crops which are important for sustaining my livelihood. But in commercialized agriculture, I will produce those crops which are high in demand in the national as well as international market, because they will accrue me a huge amount of profit. Now, Britishers came in India and forced our peasants to cultivate commercial crops like poppy, opium, sugarcane, cotton, indigo, jute, and many other commercial crops. I'll give you a small example. Suppose the Britishers said to our peasant that you compulsorily cultivate cotton. We are going to purchase that cotton at rupees 5. I'm giving an example so that you can easily understand the concept. Now, you have to cultivate this cotton at rupees 5. Our peasants are ready. Once the crop is ready for the harvest, now they are saying, if you have to sell it to us at rupees 1, we are ready to buy it. Otherwise, we are not going to buy. Cotton is a commercial crop. And where will our peasant send that crop? Where will our peasant sell that crop? So he is compulsorily forced to sell that crop at a very minimal price of 1 rupees to the Britishers. Now this cotton will go to Manchester and Liverpool, and from there it will go to London, where it is converted into a manufactured textile, and again it will come back to India and it is sold at rupees 10 in India. At what price did they purchase this cotton in India or the raw material? At rupees 1. At what price now this cotton is sold in India or textile is sold in India? At rupees 10. In a very systematic manner, in a very methodological manner, India's resources are drained out of India. This is called as drain of wealth. And this theory was highlighted for the first time by Dadabhai Naoroji in his book Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. So artisan section and the peasant section was unhappy with the derogatory policies that were adopted by the Britishers in India. Then comes certain section of Zamindar. Like I have told you, one system called as Zamindari System. Okay. Now as per Zamindari System, Zamindar acted as a middleman between company and the peasant. Suppose if there is a situation like flood and famine, and if the peasant is unable to pay to the Zamindar, how will the Zamindar pay to the company? So in that case, his Zamindari rights would be evicted and it would be transferred to someone else. So Zamindar was one section which was also unhappy with the policies that was adopted by the Britishers. Then comes the section of tribals. Okay. Then comes the section of tribal. For tribals, their jungle and forest are everything for them. And they consider that as sacred grove. Now, Britishers started exploiting the forest in the name of construction of roads, in the name of mining. And these tribes were hardly given any part of the produce of the forest. I'll give you one example, Munda Revolt. Munda Revolt is also referred as Sardari Ladai because Mundas considered themselves as Khunt Katidar. Simply means that these forests belong to the Mundas and we are the original clearer of the forest. And we won't be allowing any sort of interference by any outside company or Britishers on our land. But Britishers forcefully interfered with their forest. They forcefully interfered with the tribal policies and belief. And that is why tribal section was also unhappy with the policies that was adopted by the Britishers. As per Charter Act 1813, I have told you, Christian missionaries were allowed to come in India and preach Christianity. They can propagate Christianity, but they cannot force anyone to get converted into Christianity. Now, Britishers came up with few acts like Religious Disabilities Act. I repeat, Religious Disabilities Act. And what is this act all about? As per this act, if any person who is not accepting Christianity, he cannot inherit his ancestral property. So there was a sort of forceful conversion into Christianity. Then came there was a sort of racial discrimination, that is discrimination on the basis of color of skin. Discrimination on the basis of color of skin that was being adopted by the Britishers here. I'll give you a very small example. Suppose I am induced into the Indian army as a Subedar. Even though I have served loyally for continuously for 20 years, I'll remain a Subedar. And an Englishman would be promoted to a higher position. So there was a sort of racial discrimination policy that was being adopted. Now, immediate spurt for revolt of 1857 was a new rifle was introduced, which is referred as Royal Enfield rifle. And Royal Enfield rifle, it had a coating, it had a cartridge that needs to be bitten off with the teeth. Okay. Now the cartridge had a coating of pig fat and cow fat. Pig was taboo to Muslim and cow was sacred to the Hindus. Now it is said that these people who were induced in the army refused to use the Royal Enfield rifle. Okay. Now what happened further? Let us understand. Immediately the news of this rifle spread to nook and corner of the country. And now the movement began from basically Barakpur. It is said that it began from Barakpur. There was a person in 34th Bengal Infantry whose name was Mangal Pandey. When the news of the Royal Enfield rifle spread like a wildfire, this person went on a rampage. He killed many, it is said that he wounded many British officers. And there was one person whose name was Isrul Pandey. He assisted Mangal Pandey in such activities. On 8th April 1857, Mangal Pandey became the first martyr of Mother India. On 11th April 1857, Isrul Pandey became the next martyr of Mother India. And the martyrship of Mangal Pandey and Isrul Pandey spread like a wildfire. And each and every section of the Indian society, rather it be a king, it be a prince, rather it be zamindar, rather it be peasant, rather it be the soldiers in the army, rather it be the artisans, rather it be the laborers, each and every section of the Indian society participated in one of the movement which is referred as Revolt of 1857. And Revolt of 1857 was majorly confined in the northern part of India. Yes, to an extent, it did cover certain central parts of India and certain parts of South India, but majorly it was confined to the northern part of India. But the people of entire India were politically surcharged, and one of the major role that was played here was by media, was by print media, that is newspaper. Newspaper played a very crucial role in sensitizing the masses about the exploitative character of the British rule in India. They played a very major role in generating the patriotic zeal and enthusiasm among the people of India. That is why it is said that whatever is happening in the northern part of India, people came to know about that in southern part of India, eastern part of India, western part of India. And how did people come to know about this? Through newspaper, pamphlet, books, magazine, and so on. So now, to contain the revolt of 1857, Britishers came up with an act which is referred as Licensing Act 1857. And major purpose was that due to 1857, like basically newspaper was playing a very major role in sensitizing the masses, in creating a patriotic zeal among the masses. And to stop such circulation of newspaper, immediately Britishers came up with Licensing Act 1857. And as per this, any newspaper or any publisher who is not having a license, he cannot start a newspaper or he cannot circulate any sort of print material. Now, and who has the authority, discretionary power to grant the license? This power or authority is completely with the British government. And this is nothing but Licensing Act 1857. Did you get the points, my friends? Please let me know. Yes, guys. Okay. Please keep the session active and interactive, guys. If you have any sort of doubt, please feel free to ask me any question. Okay. Now let's move with Government of India Act 1858. Now, as per Government of India Act 1858, the monopoly of English East India Company was completely ended by now, and English East India Company was liquidated. And the main reason for this was Revolt of 1857. Now, the rule of company was now being taken by rule of crown, or it was being replaced by rule of crown or British Parliament in India. Now, crown himself is not going to govern India. So on behalf of crown, there was Secretary of State for India who is going to take care of the administration in India. Okay, so in very simple language, in very simple words, Secretary of State for India was a member of British Parliament and he was a representative of the crown because he represented the British Parliament or he represented the British crown. That is why Secretary of State for India is referred as British representative or the representative of the crown. He was also a member of Parliament in Britain, and he can be a cabinet member or a cabinet minister in the British Parliament as well. Now there are 15 members, 15 members to assist Secretary of State for India in performance of his duty. So in very simple words, since the Secretary of State for India is representing in India, he requires an executive council, he requires a supporting council to assist him in performance of his duty. So Secretary of State for India had 15 members to assist him. Now out of 15 members, 8 were appointed by Court of Director and 7 was directly appointed by the British Crown. I repeat, Secretary of State for India was representing the British Crown and was assisted by 15 members. Out of 15 members, 8 were appointed by Court of Director and 7 were appointed by the British Crown. Moving further, as per Regulating Act 1773, Governor of Bengal was designated as Governor General of Bengal. And the first Governor General of Bengal was Lord Warren Hastings. As per Charter Act 1833, Governor General of Bengal now came to be designated as Governor General of India. And the first Governor General of India was Lord William Bentinck. And then, as per Government of India Act 1858, Governor General of India now came to be designated as Viceroy of India. The last Governor General of India and the first Viceroy of India was Lord Canning. And like the Secretary of State for India, Lord Canning or Viceroy of India also had a separate executive council to assist him in performance of his duties. So Secretary of State for India had a separate executive council and Viceroy of India had a separate executive council. In very simple language, in very simple words, Secretary of State for India represented the British Crown and Viceroy of India represented the British India. And Secretary of State acted as a channel of communication between British India and the British Parliament or the Crown. Okay, as per Government of India Act 1858, dual government was completely ended and we have discussed about the dual government, and the policy of doctrine of lapse was also ended. Now what is policy of doctrine of lapse? Let us understand this. Prior to Lord Canning, there was one Governor General whose name was Lord Dalhousie. He is considered as one of the youngest Governor Generals of India. Okay, he came up with a policy which is referred as doctrine of lapse. It is nothing but pro-imperialistic approach that was being followed by the Britishers. In very simple words, it is a pro-imperialistic approach. And what is this all about? Any ruler who does not have a legal male heir, His kingdom would be annexed by the Britishers. Adopted child would not be considered as a legal male heir. I repeat, adopted child would not be considered as a legal male heir. And the entire kingdom would be annexed by whom? Entire kingdom would be annexed by the Britishers. Hundreds of kingdoms were annexed on the pretext of doctrine of lapse. Like Jhansi, Jaipur, Udaipur, then Nagpur, Awadh. In fact, Awadh was being annexed on the pretext of maladministration. This concept is referred as doctrine of lapse, and this was initiated by Lord Dalhousie. As per Government of India Act 1858, doctrine of lapse system was completely ended by now. By now, there were 560 princely states in India, small Rajya Rajwade, princely state. Now, if these princely states are ready to accept the British suzerainty, they would be free to carry on their internal administration as per this act. And now, civil services was kept under Secretary of State for India. These are the major provisions of Government of India Act 1858. I will repeat few provisions in quite short. Please listen to me patiently. Please listen to me clearly so that all your doubts are clear. The rule of company was completely liquidated. The rule of company was replaced by rule of crown in India. Crown was represented by Secretary of State for India. Secretary of State was a member of British Parliament or a British Cabinet. Secretary of State for India was assisted by Executive Council consisting of 15 members to assist him in the performance of his duty. Now, Secretary of State would be assisted, like, as I've told you, 15 members would be there. Out of 15 members, 8 were appointed by Court of Directors. 7 were being appointed directly by the British Crown. As per Government of India Act 1858, Governor General of India was now being designated as Viceroy of India. The last Governor General of India and the first Viceroy of India was Lord Canning. Okay. Now, as per this act, the policy of doctrine of lapse, which was being initiated by Lord Dalhousie, and it was nothing but pro-imperialistic approach of the Britishers, was completely ended now. And there were around approximately 560 princely states in India. If these princely states are ready to accept the British suzerainty, they would be free to carry on their internal administration. And the civil services would now be under Secretary of State for India. These are the major provisions for Government of India Act 1858, and it is very important from the exam perspective. Did you get the points? Please let me know. Yes, Sarika Ranjan, good evening. Thanks, Ashok. Thanks a lot. Okay. Civil Services Act 1861. As I have told you previously, initially Indians were not allowed to be a part of the administration because Britishers believed in one important concept, and that concept was it is quite easier to rule over the people who are not educated. I repeat, it is quite easier to rule over the people who are not educated. That is why Britishers, initially they were not interested in associating Indians in the administrative services. But with the passage of time, they felt that to improve the administrative efficiency, to improve the effectiveness in the administration, it is necessary to employ Indians into the administrative services. And now they have come up with Civil Services Act 1861. As per this act, any person, whether he should be an Indian or a European, he could only be appointed to the civil services provided that he has lived in India for 7 years. Now, why this was introduced? As I have told you previously, that when initially the civil servants were recruited into the civil services and now they were directly brought into India, their administrative efficiency and effectiveness was not up to the mark. Why it was not up to the mark? Because they hardly had any knowledge about the history of India, any knowledge about the climate of India, any knowledge about the geography of India. And the efficiency, what is required by an administrator, was not reflected here. That is why it is compulsory for a person, whether European or Indian, to stay in India at least for 7 years. Then, I'll give you a very small example. Suppose you become a district collector and you become a district collector in Karnataka. Okay, you are a person from Maharashtra, or you are a person from UP, or you are a person from Rajasthan or Tamil Nadu. If you are recruited as a district collector in that district, you need to interact with the people at the grassroots level in the districts of Karnataka. So in that case, you should be well conversant. At least you should be acquainted with the language Kannada, so that you can interact with the people at the grassroots level and the policy implementation would be quite effective and efficient. Now here as well, any person who is recruited as a civil servant in a particular district, he should be very well aware about the local or the vernacular language of that district, so that administrative efficiency could be improved. Because it is the district collector or an SP who is going to directly interact with the people at the grassroots level. Then there were certain posts which were reserved for these Europeans only. Like initially, the post of district collector was reserved for Europeans only. Okay, this is majorly about Civil Services Act 1861. Did you get the points, my friends? Please let me know. Okay. Indian High Courts Act 1861. This I would be talking when I'll be teaching the Government of India Act 1935, because I would be comparing certain administrative changes here. So I'll be talking in comparative analysis. Okay, did you get the points till here, guys? Yes, guys, please let me know. Okay, shall I ask you a few questions so that I can understand that how many of you are actively and keenly listening to me? Yes, guys, shall I go for a few questions? Okay, my first question. Supreme Court at Fort William was established as per which act? I repeat, Supreme Court at Fort William was established as per which act? Yes, guys. Yes, Ashi, you can ask me the doubt. Yes, Seema, perfect. It's as per 1773 Act. Okay, then Board of Control over the company or over the Court of Directors was established as per which Act? Yes, guys, a bit faster. Yes. Yes, guys, a bit faster. Yes, Ashi, once what we say, you remember the doubt, please do ask me. Okay, yes, Seema, it's perfect. Yes, Jaya, it's perfect. Pitt's India Act 1784. Perfect, Ashok. Jayashri, it's not in 1883, it's 1784, guys. It's not 1884. Everyone is going with 1884. It's 1784. Pitt's India Act 1784. Okay. Yes. Now let's move with Vernacular Press Act 1878. Now listen to me very carefully. Around 1870s, like it is said that initially there were more number of English newspapers in India. But around 1870s, there were more vernacular newspaper in comparison to the English newspaper. Can you imagine that there were approximately around 20 to 25 English newspaper and more than 200 vernacular newspaper. Now these newspaper were started initially during the period of Renaissance. Now what is Renaissance? Let me give you a few examples. Like our Indian society was being plagued by various social evils. Like there was sati system, there was child marriage, caste system or Varna system was very rigidly followed, and there was a derogatory condition of certain section of the society. The condition of women was declining day by day, and women could not live a dignified life. Education was restricted to the upper few caste. Now it is said that the movement began from the region of Bengal, and the pioneer of this movement was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Like he is also called as father of Bengal Renaissance, bridge between past and the future, or father of Indian Renaissance. And he initiated Atmiya Sabha, Brahmo Samaj and many other movements. So like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, there were many more who came into the field of reforming the society, because they believed that before getting independence from the Britishers, before getting rid from the Britishers, it is necessary for us to get rid from the rudimentary thoughts and traditions. We should free ourselves from rudimentary thoughts and tradition. And that is why they picked up the what we say responsibility of transforming the society in a positive manner. There are many examples like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Keshav Chandra Sen, Devendranath Tagore, Jyotiba Phule, B.R. Ambedkar and many more. Okay. Now these people or these socio-religious reformer basically used newspaper as a medium for sensitizing the masses. But with the passage of time, when there was transformation in the society, now they use these newspaper to sensitize the masses about the exploitative character of the British rule in India. And by now, there were more than 200 vernacular newspaper. Vernacular newspaper basically means the newspaper in the local languages. And there were only approximately around 20 to 25 English newspaper. So now these newspaper acted as a channel of communication between the governed, that is the people, and the government. Now, the newspapers used to highlight the flaws in the policies that were adopted by the Britishers. Okay, and people used to get sensitized. Now, to stop the vernacular newspaper, Britishers came up with a new act which is called as Vernacular Press Act 1878. The name itself suggests this act was completely brought against vernacular newspaper. Okay, now the entire power was given to the district magistrate. Who should be granted license, who should not be granted license, it was completely the discretionary power of a district magistrate. It was complete discretionary power of the government. Secondly, the publisher has to deposit certain amount of security money with the district magistrate. And if found, like by the Britishers, if Britishers found that the publisher or the newspaper is publishing anything derogatory, which is against the interest of the Britishers, now the security money is liable to be forfeited. In very simple language, in very simple words, the deposit or the security money would not be given back to the publisher or the printer. Secondly, their property would also be confiscated. The printing material would also be confiscated. And a special officer would be appointed as per this act to investigate into the cases, that is press commissioner. And the case cannot be entertained in the court of law. In very simple words, Britishers were putting restrictions on the vernacular newspaper. And as per this act, 4 newspapers had to shut down the publications. I repeat, there were 4 newspapers, they had to shut down the publications as per Vernacular Press Act 1878. And these newspapers are Dakka Prakash, Som Prakash, Samachar and Bharat Mihir. I repeat, Som Prakash, Dakka Prakash, Samachar and Bharat Mihir. And there was one newspaper, that is Amrit Bazar Patrika. Overnight, it became an English newspaper. Initially, it was a vernacular newspaper, that is a Bengali, and overnight it got it adopted English as a medium for communication now. And Surendranath Banerjee became the first Indian journalist to be imprisoned because he campaigned against this act. This act was finally being repealed by one of the viceroy, whose name was Lord Ripon, in 1882. There was a question in the UPSC prelims exam. Consider the following statements about Vernacular Press Act 1878. First statement. As per this act, there was a vernacular newspaper, Som Prakash, which got converted into English overnight. Second statement. Surendranath Banerjee became the first Indian journalist to be imprisoned. Which among the following statement is correct? My friends, the answer is only 2. Why? Because it is not the Som Prakash which got converted into English newspaper. It is Amrit Bazar Patrika. So did you understand what sort of questions can be asked in the exam? Did you understand this, guys? See, yes, Ashi, I got your question now. If Britishers actually wanted to associate more number of Indians in the administration, then why did they reduce the age limit? Okay. Now, every viceroy followed their own practices. Okay. See, every viceroy had his own working pattern. Every viceroy had his own style of working. Like few viceroys were quite liberal towards the Indian media or the press, and there were few viceroys who were completely opposed to the press. So Lord Lytton, it is said that he reduced the age from 21 to 19 years. But when this was felt as derogatory towards the interest of the Indians, this was again repealed. Getting the points? Because administrative efficiency was not up to the mark. And this was a random decision that was being taken by Lord Lytton. Hope so, Ashi, I have answered your question now. Yes. Sai Himanshu, Namaskar. Good evening. Yes, guys. Indian Council Act 1892 and Morley Minto Reforms 1909. That would be studied in conjunction. Yes, did you understand the point? Ashi, please let me know. Okay, guys. Now let us discuss Cdts Meeting Act 1907. Prior to that, I would like to talk about something else. Now, I would be talking about Swadeshi Movement and I would be talking about partition of Bengal so that one can easily understand the concept. Now listen to me very carefully. It's a very important one. Okay. Now, prior to 1885, there were many pre-Congress organizations. Okay. But these pre-Congress organizations was not, they did not had a proper coherent attitude. Now, in 1885, excuse me, in 1885, Indian National Congress was formed at a place called as Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit College in Bombay. The first session of the Indian National Congress was attended by 72 delegates. And the first session was held at Bombay. The first session was being presided by Vomesh Chandra Banerjee. The second session of Indian National Congress was held at Calcutta and was presided by Grand Old Man of India, whose name was Dadabhai Nauroji. It was in the second session of Indian National Congress that it was decided that every year we are going to meet at a particular place in India and we are going to discuss the issues of national importance. And the second session of Indian National Congress was approximately attended by 436 delegates. The third session of Indian National Congress was held in 1887 and was presided by first minority president of Indian National Congress, Badruddin Tayyabji. I repeat, Badruddin Tayyabji. It was held at Madras. And with the passage of time, the number of delegates in the Indian National Congress sessions kept on increasing. Now, right from the start itself, Congress was divided on ideological perspective. One section was referred as moderates and the other section was referred as extremists. Both of them had their different working pattern. Both of the section have a different working style. Now, moderates, listen to me, as the name itself suggests, they believed in a steady progress. They believed in providential mission theory. And what is providential mission theory? If we remain loyal to the Britishers, some or the other day, Britishers are going to repay us for our loyalty. So they believed in prayer, petition and protest. And they believe in peaceful and bloodless struggle. Now, on the other hand was extremist. Now, extremists believe that if independence could have got by staying within the constitutional limit, there couldn't have been bigger revolutions in the world like American Revolution and the French Revolution. To gain independence, sometimes we need to go beyond the constitutional limit. So, they believe that Britishers are highly unworthy of our loyalty. And we want immediate independence and not in a stage by stage manner. We want independence all of a sudden. So these ideological perspectives were prevalent in the Congress right from the start itself. Like there were few moderate leaders like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Dadabhai Nauroji, Firoz Shah Mehta and many more. And there were many extremist leaders like Sher-e Punjab, that is Lala Lajpat Rai ji, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, then Bipin Chandra Pal ji, Aurobindo Ghosh ji and many more. Now moving further, moderates were successful in passing Indian Council Act 1892. And as per Indian Council Act 1892, number of Indian members in the Legislative Council was 16. I repeat, the number of members in the Indian Legislative Council was 16. Now listen to me very carefully. These members could discuss the budget, but they could not vote upon the budget. So what is the use of such a power? I'll give you a small example. Suppose a budget is passed or a bill is being discussed on the military expenditure. Like India is not at all following a policy of imperialism. Britishers are colonizing other nations. They are spending more amount of money on military weapons. That money could be utilized for welfare of India. That money could be utilized for generating capital and developing industries in India. But Britishers are spending that money for ruthless policy of expansion. Now, if the members are opposing that point in the bill, that should be cancelled. Isn't that so? The bill should be cancelled. But no, members just can discuss the budget, but they cannot vote upon the budget. The final authority to pass the budget, the final authority to pass any sort of bill lies in the hand of Britishers. What is the use of such an act? This is referred as Indian Council Act 1892. So, this is referred as Indian Council Act 1892. So, majorly it is said that Britishers were trying to fool us in a systematic manner. Now, for first 20 years, the politics in India was being dominated by moderates. In 1905, there was a Viceroy of India whose name was Lord Curzon. Now, Lord Curzon announced the partition of Bengal on the pretext that Bengal has become too big to be administered. Listen to me very carefully. Bengal has become too big to be administered and it cannot be managed by single Viceroy. That is why we are trying to divide the Bengal into two parts, East Bengal and the West Bengal. Okay? East Bengal was a Muslim majority province and West Bengal was a Hindu majority province. Actually, now the Britishers wanted to divide the Hindus and the Muslims. This was the hidden agenda that was followed by the Britishers here. Okay, this was the implicit intention. And what was the explicit intention? That Bengal has become too big to be administered. It cannot be managed by a single viceroy. But actually the hidden agenda was to break the fabric of cultural unity in India. That is why in 1905, Britishers announced the partition of Bengal. And against this move of the Britishers, what happened further? Now, a call for Swadeshi movement was given by Gopal Krishna Gokhale at Banaras session of Indian National Congress in 1905. Now, initially it was decided that Swadeshi movement would just be confined in the region of Bengal and it will not spread to other parts of the country. We are not going to spread the movement to other parts of the country. Now, the movement became quite successful in the region of Bengal. Swadeshi and boycott both are complementary to each other. Swadeshi basically means we are only going to use those goods which are produced in our own country. And we are going to boycott the goods which are produced in foreign countries basically, or which are produced in Britain. Now, initially it was decided that movement will just remain confined to the region of Bengal. But with the passage of time, the movement became so successful that it was decided that the movement should spread to the other parts of the nation. This was completely opposed by the moderates. When extremists were demanding that movement should spread to other parts of the nation, this was completely opposed by the moderates now. Now what happened further? In 1906, this Indian National Congress session was held at Calcutta. Now extremists wanted Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji or Lala Lajpat Rai ji to become the president of Indian National Congress. And moderates proposed the name of a very respected person whose name was Dadabhai Nauroji. Although he was a moderate, but he was a very respected, he was a very revered person among all the extremists, among all the nationalists of all the rank. So in the 1906 session was presided by Dadabhai Nauroji. But extremists were successful in passing 4 Calcutta resolutions. And these resolutions were Swaraj, Swadeshi, Boycott and National Education. I repeat, the 4 Calcutta resolutions that were passed by extremists in 1906 were Swaraj, Swadeshi, Boycott and National Education. Now, Britishers were closely watching the activities of extremists by now. And right from the start itself, Britishers had always played 2 games in India: divide and rule, carrot and stick. What is divide and rule? Divide and rule means to break the cultural fabric in India, either divide the India on regional basis, either divide the India on communal basis, or divide the India on casteist line. This policy was always followed by the Britishers right from the start itself. And second policy was what we say carrot and stick policy. Now what is carrot and stick policy that is adopted by the Britishers? Carrot and stick policy simply means that if you have to suppress one particular section, you need to uplift or support the other section. Otherwise, everyone is going to revolt against you and the entire game would be changed. So Britishers were closely watching everything. And now they realize that if we have to suppress the extremists, we need to support the moderates. Okay. Now comes 1907. Okay. Now comes 1907. In 1907, actually the meeting place was at Bombay, but Tiger of Bombay was Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. And if Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji presides over the sessions in Bombay, moderates will be hell bent to listen to the what we say things that have been suggested by Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. So the venue was shifted to Surat. And now at Surat, some other person was elected as the president of Indian National Congress. Now there was a rumor that was spread, and the rumor was that moderates are going to cancel down, or moderates are going to scuttle the 4 Calcutta resolutions. That is Swaraj, Swadeshi, boycott and national education. My friends, this was not the plan. This was a rumor. And now it is said that Firoz Shah Mehta ji stood up to address the session. And when he was addressing the session, some unidentified person hurled a shoe on Firoz Shah Mehta. Second, an unidentified person hurled a shoe on Surendranath Banerjee. And at this point of time, the entire place where everyone were discussing the reform became a battleground between the moderates and extremists. In fact, the Britishers had to intervene to clear the hall. Okay. And from now onwards, moderates and extremists parted their ways. And this is referred as Surat split in the history of modern India. Now, as I've told you, why were extremists not happy with the policies of Britishers? When extremists were running the movement throughout the nation, the moderates were negotiating with the Britishers in London for further reforms. And that reforms resulted in Morley Minto reforms, or Government of India Act 1909. So before that, Britishers came up with a new act, that is Cdts Meeting Act 1907. And as per this act, any sort of distribution of what we say written material which is derogatory for the public peace, which is derogatory for the administration, or which is against the Britishers or their policy, immediately an action would be taken against that person or a newspaper or the publisher. Any meeting which is not held as per proper law and proper permission is not taken of the police commissioner or DSP, that is District Superintendent of Police, or SP, okay, at least a written permission should be given, or 3-day prior notice should be given before conducting a meeting. Then police commissioner or the district superintendent has the complete authority to grant the permission or to cancel the permission, and this cannot be entertained in the court of law. Secondly, police can attend such meetings so that if anything derogatory is being discussed against the Britishers, immediate action can be taken against these people. If they are breaking such a law, it would be punishable with 6-month imprisonment. Okay, and this act was raised in British House of Commons by Wickerman Rutherford. This act was later on completely replaced, and immediately after this, after the Surat split, Britishers followed a very ruthless policy of suppression for Swadeshi movement, and specifically on the extremist. Like Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji was sent to Mandalay jail for 6 years. He was finally released in 1914. Aurobindo Ghosh retired from active politics. Like it is said that he went and settled in Pondicherry. Bipin Chandrapal retired from politics. Lala Lajpat Rai ji went to England. And now the entire movement got fizzled out. And that is majorly about this act, Cdts Meeting Act. Newspaper Incitement of Offences Act. I have already talked about the Swadeshi movement. I have already talked about the role that has been played majorly by the extremists in sensitizing the masses, because extremists continuously utilized newspaper as a medium to sensitize the masses. And the Newspaper Incitement of Offences Act was completely brought against the activities of the extremist. And here the magistrate was given the complete authority to confiscate the press property. If anything is published which is derogatory against the interest of the Britishers, immediately the press property would be confiscated. In fact, I had told you in Vernacular Press Act 1878, the publisher has to keep certain amount of deposit money with the Britishers. And even though their property is confiscated, secondly, the deposit money is also forfeited. So basically, the press did not get any sort of freedom after the Swadeshi movement, because there was one act which is Newspaper Incitement of Offences Act 1908. Then comes Indian Press Act 1910. It is nothing but revision of Vernacular Press Act. Okay, in very simple word, this act was completely directed against the vernacular newspaper, because vernacular newspaper played a very major role in sensitizing the masses. Yes, my friends, did you get the points? Please let me know. Yes, Sai Himanshu, Muslim League was formed in 1906. That is altogether a different topic. Okay. Thanks, Monisha. Thanks, Sai Himanshu. Yes, Ashi. See, even though you do not remember the dates, try one thing. Go like study everything in a chronological order. Please do not study in haphazard and in a random manner. What will happen here, if you keep on studying in the random manner, you won't be able to remember the facts. Okay, so my personal suggestion here is study in a chronological order rather than going for things in a haphazard manner. Okay, did you understand, Ashi? Okay, just give me 1 minute. Yes, guys. Now let us discuss Morley Minto reforms. Now we'll understand Morley Minto reforms in quite depth. It is also referred as Government of India Act 1909. Please pay proper attention so that all your doubts are clear and you can easily understand the concept in a systematic manner. Okay? Yes, guys. Morley Minto reforms 1909. Now, as I have told you, when extremists who were running the movement, that is Swadeshi movement throughout India, moderate specifically Gopal Krishna Gokhale was negotiating with the Britishers in London. And as I have told you, Britishers always followed two policies in India: divide and rule and carrot and stick policy. Now, divide and rule is basically to break the cultural harmony in India, to break the cultural unity in India. And carrot and stick policy, as I have told you previously, if Britishers want to suppress one particular section, they will always try to uplift other particular section. Now, Britishers wanted to suppress here the extremist. They wanted to suppress the activities of the extremist. And for this now, they needed to support whom? The moderates. And now Britishers came up with a bait of fresh reforms, which is referred as Morley Minto reforms or Government of India Act 1909. Now, why it is referred as Morley Minto? Because Morley was Secretary of State for India and Minto was Viceroy of India. That is why this is also referred as Morley Minto reforms. Now, prior to this, Indian Council Act 1892 was passed. Okay. Now, as per this act, listen very carefully. As per previous act, the number of members in the Imperial Legislative Council would be approximately around 16, minimum 10 and maximum 16. But as per this act, as per Morley Minto Reforms Act, the number of members were increased to 60. 60. Imperial Legislative Council and Provincial Legislative Council. In very simple words, Imperial means the central government, provincial means the state government. Okay. Now, Initially, the number of members, minimum members were 10 and maximum members were 16, 1 6. Now the number of members have been increased to 60, 60. Okay. Now, can you understand how in a very systematic fashion we are going to understand that these people are fooling us? People will think that initially the number of members were 16 and now due to drastic reforms the number of members have been increased to 60, 60. But actually you will understand that hardly 11 seats are there for which elections are going to be held. Listen to me. Out of 60, 27 were elected and 33 were nominated. Okay? Out of 60, 27 were elected and 33 would be nominated. The nominated members would be nominated by whom? The nominated members would be nominated by the Britishers. Now remaining are 27. Out of 27, for the first time as per Morley Minto reforms, Muslims were given separate electorate. So now 8 seats were reserved for Muslim. Then 6 seats were reserved for big landlord or zamindar who were quite loyal to the Britishers. And 2 seats were reserved for the British capitalist. I repeat, totally there were 60 seats. Out of 60, 27 were elected and 33 were nominated. The seats that were nominated were being nominated by whom? By the Britishers. Left are 27 elected. Out of 27, 8 seats are reserved for Muslim. 6 seats are reserved for big landlord or zamindar who are completely loyal to the Britishers. And 2 seats are reserved for British capitalists. So 8 plus 6 is 14, 14 plus 2 is 16. These are reserved. How many seats are left after 27? Only 11. Elections would be held for 11 seats. And what is projected here? 60 seats are reserved in the Imperial Legislative Council. We are trying to associate more number of Indians in the administrative process. But this is not the truth. Okay? Now, the number of members in the various provinces were also increased. Like in Bombay province, there were 8 members. Madras 20, Bengal 20, Northwest 15, Oudh 15. Now, members initially had the power to discuss the budget, but they cannot vote upon the budget. Now they can discuss the budget. They can discuss the bill. Okay. They can ask questions. They can ask supplementary questions. They can discuss the things which are of domestic importance with the prior permission of Governor General and his council. But finally, he cannot vote upon these things. So what is the change? What is the difference between Indian Council Act 1892 and Morley Minto Reforms 1909? The powers of the Britishers or the powers of Governor General still remains the same. The power of Governor General still remains unchanged. So it is nothing but you are polishing the old act in the new form and projecting in front of Indians. Okay. Moving further, like Governor General's Executive Council would now have 1 Indian member. And the first Indian member to be the part of Governor General's Executive Council was Satyendranath Sinha. Okay. Now 2 members were nominated to the Secretary of State Council for Indian Affairs in England. I have told you previously that Secretary of State for India acted as a channel of communication between the British Crown and what we say Indian administration. So there were 2 Indians which were appointed. Basically, they were nominated to be the member of Secretary of State's Council. And Secretary of State's Council had how many members? 15 members. And now I have told you previously, since 8 seats were reserved for Muslim, separate electorate for Muslims was given as per Government of India Act 1909 or Morley Minto Reforms 1909. Did you understand the concept? Please let me know. Yes, Himanshu, I'll try. Thank you. I'll try for this. Yes, Monisha, I'll try for polity as well. Yes, guys, did you understand this? Yes, give me 1 minute. Okay. Now, before I start with Montego-Chelmsford Reforms 1919 or Government of India Act 1919, let me give you a brief background and let me tell you what were the incidences that led to Montego-Chelmsford Reforms in 1919. Pay proper attention so that you can easily understand all the concepts. Okay. As I've told you, after Swadeshi movement, Britishers followed a very ruthless policy of suppression and they adopted a very stern attitude specifically towards the Indian. They adopted a very stern attitude towards the extremist. Like Bal Gangadhar Tilakji, he was sent to Mandalay jail. Okay, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji was sent to Mandalay jail. Lala Lajpat Rai ji, he went to England. Then basically this person, Bipin Chandrapal, temporarily retired from the politics. Aurobindo Ghosh ji retired from the politics completely and got settled himself in Pondicherry. Now moving further. For 6 years, approximately around 6 years, there was a sort of political vacuum in the nation. And it is said that people had accepted the British rule, people had accepted the slavery as a part of their life. And now for 6 years, there was a continuous political vacuum in the nation. And since Britishers had played the policy of divide and rule, they were quite successful in using this policy in India. Now moving further. In 1914, a pioneering step was being taken by Mrs. Annie Besant. Now Annie Besant, she felt that until and unless we are able to break this political vacuum in India, we cannot expect the India to gain independence from the Britishers. Okay, we cannot expect the India to gain independence from Britishers. Now, by now, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji was also released from the jail. And now it was decided that if we keep on fighting among ourselves, if we keep our internal squabbles quite intact, we won't be able to nurture the national movement. For that, we need to forget about the internal squabbling. We need to forget about the internal fight. And this was taught by Bal Gangadhar Tilakji and Annie Besant as well. Now, both of them decided to start Home Rule League movement in India so that the movement which was nurtured a decade back could be revived back now. The same patriotic zeal, the same enthusiastic zeal, the same patriotism could be regenerated among the people, which has been lost by now. So, in April 1916, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji started his own Home Rule League movement. And in September 1916, Annie Besant started her own Home Rule League movement. Now, Bal Gangadhar Tilak's league had 6 branches in India except Bombay. And Annie Besant had more than 200 branches in India. Okay, although both of them worked together, but both the leagues coordinated with each other. Okay, both the leagues coordinated with each other. Meanwhile, there were various other incidences that took place in India. Okay, pay attention properly. There were other incidences that took place in India. One was basically Lucknow Merger and Lucknow Pact. Now both moderates and extremists realized the importance of staying united, because now they have seen that within this 6 years we have made the work of Britishers quite easier. And time and again, Britishers have been fooling us in the name of reforms. They are just repolishing the old reforms and bringing it in the new form. And if we keep on fighting among ourselves, we are strengthening the work of Britishers. So it is unnecessary that we fight now. And now it is necessary that we become united. And this step was taken by Indian National Congress in 1916. And here this is called as Lucknow Merger. The extremists and the moderates felt that the old differences have become meaningless now, and now we should fight unitedly against the Britishers. The Congress, which had split in 1907, was now again reunited in 1916. This is referred as Lucknow Merger. In the same year itself, in the same session of the Indian National Congress, a step was also taken here. Muslim League now decided to work with the Congress. And why Muslim League decided to work with the Congress? There are certain reasons associated with this. Now, if the Muslim League and the Congress are both the political parties are going to work together, this will project a united India in front of the Britishers. And now, commonly they are going to put forward a demand for independence of India. So these changes occurred in 1916 at Indian National Congress session of Lucknow, which was being presided by Ambika Charan Muzumdar. So I've talked about Home Rule, I've talked about Lucknow session and Lucknow merger. There were two more incidences that took place now. Rowlatt Act, Jallianwala Bagh massacre and Khilafat movement. Now what is Rowlatt Act? Now Britishers passed one very derogatory act. By now, there were many revolutionaries that have cropped up. Now, revolutionary movement was quite vogue in India. Revolutionary basically means Krantikari. Now, it is said that there were many revolutionary movement that was taking place in India by now. And Britishers came up with one act, that is Revolutionary and Anarchical Crimes Act. It is also referred as Rowlatt Act because it was being framed by Sir Sidney Rowlatt. As per this act, Britishers can arrest anybody. Britishers can arrest anyone if they felt that this person is involved in any sort of seditious activity. This is nothing but curbing the right to liberty. It is the right of habeas corpus. You might have studied in polity. Habeas corpus, that is producing in front of the court, is completely abolished. If any person is arrested, he is produced in front of a judge within 24 hours, except holidays. Okay, here that person can be put in remand for 2 years without showing any arrest. This is completely violating the fundamental rights of the Indians, and this rule was specifically brought for the Indians. Against this act is also referred as Black Act. Against this act, M.K. Gandhi started a nationwide hartal. And the hartal was being led by two people in the region of Punjab. One was Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo. I repeat, Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo, both of them were leading the protest in the region of Punjab. And now Britishers imposed martial law in Punjab. And the two leaders, that is Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo, were arrested now. Moving further. When the two leaders were arrested, the people in the region of Punjab gathered at a place called as Jallianwala Bagh. Now it is called as Jallianwala Bagh because this garden was being constructed by Pandit Jalla, who was a minister in the court of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Now these people had gathered in Jallianwala Bagh and they were peacefully protesting. My friends, these innocent people were peacefully protesting against the arrest of their leaders, Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo. I have used the word peaceful protest, but these innocent people did not know that there was martial law that was being imposed in Punjab. Without any negotiation, without any understanding, without any investigation, the Britishers encircled the entire Jallianwala Bagh. The Jallianwala Bagh had a very narrow entry gate and a very narrow exit gate, and approximately 10 to 15,000 people had gathered in Jallianwala Bagh to celebrate Baisakhi, that is a festival, and secondly, they had gathered here to peacefully protest against the arrest of their leaders. General Dyer opened firing upon the innocent crowd. The firing continued for 15 to 17 minutes till the ammunition was completely over. 15 to 20,000 people were caught under the hails of bullet till the ammunition was over. This was considered as the darkest day in the history of British India. As per official records, 376 people lost their life. But as per unofficial records, thousands of people were massacred by the Britishers. This incident shook the entire nation, and M.K. Gandhi called this as mistake of Himalayan magnitude. In fact, M.K. Gandhi became quite famous after his South African experiment, and it is said that he returned back his Kesari Hind gold medal. Rabindranath Tagore ji, he renounced his knighthood. And now there was one more thing that occurred by now, Khilafat movement. Now what is Khilafat movement all about? Let us understand this. During World War I, from 1914 to 1919, there was World War I. Now in the World War I, Britain was on opposite side of Turkey. Now the ruler of Turkey was also referred as Caliph. And Caliph is a temporal as well as religious head of all the Sunni Muslims in the world. Whatever Caliph is going to say, the Muslims have to follow that. Now Turkey lost the first, World War. And Britain started imposing harsh terms and conditions on Turkey under Treaty of Severus that we are going to see in the world history. Now this hurted the sentiments of all the Muslims, all the Muslims, not only all over the world, but also particularly in India. And now a movement was started against the Britishers. That is Khilafat movement. And the purpose of Khilafat movement was to restore the position of Caliph by now. All these incidences occurred between 1908 to 1919. And Britishers were under immense pressure that if we are not going to bring any act, if we are not going to bring any law, or if we are not going to bring any meaningful reforms in India, then we are going to face the same fate like revolt of 1857. So before that, we should bring a particular law which will stabilize the condition in India. And now they came up with Montego-Chelmsford reforms or Government of India Act 1919. My friends, did you understand the background till here? Please let me know. Yes, Ashok, I'll be doing International Congress sessions as well. Guys, did you understand the background till here? Please do let me know. Okay. Now let us understand Government of India Act or 1919 or Montego-Chelmsford Reforms 1919. Now why it is called as Montego-Chelmsford? Because Montego was Viceroy of India. Montego was Secretary of State for India and Chelmsford was Viceroy of India. That is why it is referred as Montego-Chelmsford Reforms. Okay, now listen to me very carefully. There is provincial administration, there is central administration. Now, in the provincial administration, diarchy was introduced. Pay attention to the provisions very carefully because questions can be asked in the exam and have been asked in the exam. In the provinces, diarchy was introduced. Now, what is diarchy? Diarchy basically means rule of two. Okay? In the provinces, diarchy was introduced. That is the meaning of rule of two. Now, what is the rule of two? One was Governor General and his Executive Council, and second was the minister. That is diarchy. That is rule of two entities. One is Governor General and his Executive Council, and second is the minister. The subjects were divided into two parts: reserved subjects and the transferred subject. I repeat, reserved subject and transferred subject. The name itself suggests the reserved subject would be reserved for whom? The Britishers or Governor General and his Executive Council. And transferred subject would be reserved for whom? Transferred subject would be reserved for the minister. Reserved subjects would be of national importance, like law and order, revenue and finance, irrigation, forest. All these are subjects of national importance. And who is going to frame laws on them? Governor General and his Executive Council. And the subjects of local importance, like agriculture, sanitation, public work, local government, these were kept under transferred subject. And who is going to make law on them? The law on these subjects would be made by ministers. Okay? And why these subjects are called as transferred subject? Because if the Britishers feel that if the ministers are unable to make law, or if they are unable to run the administration in a smooth manner, these subject would be transferred to whom? These subject would be transferred to Governor General and his Executive Council. Can you understand how in a very diplomatic manner, how in a methodological manner they are trying to fool us? Okay, I'll repeat the points again. Now, diarchy was introduced in the provinces. Diarchy means rule of two. That is Governor General and his Executive Council, and the second one was popular ministers. The subjects were divided into two parts: reserved subject and the transferred subject. The rules and regulation and the laws on the reserved subject, which are of national importance, would be made by Governor General and his Executive Council. And the laws on transferred subject would be made by whom? It would be made by the ministers. And why they are called as transferred subject? Because basically it is said that if Britishers feel that the laws cannot be made in a proper manner, or the administration is not working in a smooth manner, the subjects would be transferred to the Britishers or Governor General and his Executive Council. Okay, moving further. Bicameralism was introduced at the central level. Now, what is the meaning of bicameralism? Today, we have two houses in the parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, bicameral legislature. So, bicameral legislature was introduced in the center, and that is Central Legislative Assembly and Council of States. Central Legislative Assembly is synonymous with present day Lok Sabha. And Council of State is synonymous with present day Rajya Sabha. There was a question in the prelims exam. The origin of Rajya Sabha can be traced to Montego-Chelmsford Reforms or Government of India Act 1919. Okay, coming back. So, Central Legislative Assembly, which is synonymous with present day Lok Sabha, and Council of States, which is synonymous with present day Rajya Sabha. Now, Central Legislative Assembly had a tenure of 3 years, and Council of States, that is Rajya Sabha, had tenure of 5 years. The number of members in the Central Legislative Assembly were 145, out of which 104 were elected and 41 were nominated. And the number of members in the Council of State, that is Rajya Sabha, was 60, out of which 33 were elected and 27 were nominated. I will repeat the point again. Bicameralism was introduced at the center. Bicameralism means two houses, Central Legislative Assembly and Council of State. Central Legislative Assembly had a tenure of 3 years. Council of States had a tenure of 5 years. Central Legislative Assembly had 145 members, out of which 104 were elected and 41 were nominated. Council of State had 60 members, out of which 33 were elected and 27 were nominated. My friends, I have told you previously, as per Morley Minto Reforms 1909 or Government of India Act 1909, Muslims were given separate electorate as per Morley Minto Reforms. Now, the representation was being extended to Sikh, European and Anglo-Indians as well. Now, initially the seats were reserved for Muslim. Now, certain amount of seats would be reserved for Sikh, Anglo-Indian and Europeans. Okay. Now, women were given the right to vote. They were given the complete authority to vote. But the problem here is, any person who is having a taxable income of rupees 3,000, he only has the right to vote. He or she has the right to vote. So, in very simple word, adult franchisee was made very limited. Again, they are trying to play with the provisions. Isn't that so? Now, legislators were given, the legislators or the elected people were given the complete freedom of speech. Like it is said that they can discuss the budget, but they can discuss the budget, they can also reject the budget. But the budget could be restored by Governor General and his Executive Council. Isn't the provision same like 1892 and 1909? But they have refurbished it, they have buttered in it in a very different manner. Okay, now budget was divided into two parts. Now 1/3 of the budget was kept as votable. Only 1/3 of the budget was votable and the rest of the budget was non-votable. It simply means that we can only discuss, we can ask questions, we can ask supplementary questions. In fact, we can reject the budget. But who is the final authority to restore it and pass it? Britishers or Governor General and his Executive Council. Now, Act laid the establishment of Public Service Commission for the first time, and salary of Secretary of State for India will be paid out now by the British revenues and not the Indian revenues. A High Commissioner in England was appointed, and the first High Commissioner was Sir William Stevenson Mayor. And the first High Commissioner of Indian origin was Dadiba Marwanji Dalal. Okay. Now this act had one clause that after 10 years, one commission will be brought in. And that commission would be entrusted with the responsibility of reviewing the entire setup of the working of the administration. That resulted in nothing but Simon Commission. My friends, did you understand Montego-Chelmsford reform? I will again repeat the points in few seconds. Please pay attention properly. Please listen to me patiently. Okay. First clause, diarchy was introduced in the provinces. Subjects were divided into two parts, reserved subject and transferred subject. As the name suggests, reserved subjects were reserved for Governor General and his Executive Council. Transferred subjects were reserved for whom? They were reserved for popular ministers. Now, reserved subjects were of national importance like law and order, finance, revenue, and so on. And transferred subjects were of local importance like local government, sanitation, industries, agriculture, and so on. Now, bicameralism was introduced at the central level. There were two houses. One was Central Legislative Assembly, which is synonymous with present-day Lok Sabha. There was House of Commons, there was Council of State, which is synonymous with present-day Rajya Sabha. Then, Central Legislative Assembly had a tenure of 3 years. Council of State had a tenure of 5 years. Central Legislative Assembly totally had 145 members. Council of States totally had 60 members. The right to vote for women was also given. Anybody who has a taxable income of at least 3,000 rupees had the right to vote. Okay. Then a High Commissioner in London was appointed. The first High Commissioner of Indian origin was Merwanji Dalal. Okay, Dadiba Merwanji Dalal. The budget was divided into two parts, votable and non-votable. Majority of the budget was non-votable, and the entire right was in the hands of Governor General and his Executive Council. Hope so, my friends, you understood. what we say Montego-Chelmsford reforms. Yes, guys, did you understand this? Please let me know. Because I'm going to discuss major things after this. Any query, any question, any sort of doubt, please ask me. Because I want each and every student of mine to have a clear-cut knowledge of history. And all the concepts should be clear. Yes, Monisha, I'll try to teach polity as well, but at least I should cover up the history first. So once the history is completed, I'll think of starting the polity section as well. Okay. Yes, guys, now listen to me. What incidents occurred after 1995 and what led to Government of India Act 1935? Please try and understand this. This is again very important from the exam perspective. Okay. Now, as I've told you about Jallianwala Bagh massacre, I've told you about the Rowlatt Act. We have discussed previously about the Khilafat movement. Now, MK Gandhi was on the verge of starting a movement which is referred as non-cooperation movement. Now, before starting the non-cooperation movement, MK Gandhi gave certain ultimatum to the Britishers, and MK Gandhi asked the Britishers about that Britishers should show regret of what had happened in Punjab during Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Immediately they should repeal the Rowlatt Act, and immediately they should restore the position of Caliph. And now Britishers did not pay attention to any of the demands of the Indian National Congress. Now MK Gandhi started representing the Congress and started a nationwide movement in the form of non-cooperation movement. Now the movement was quite successful for almost around 2 to 3 years, and it is said that the entire movement was based on twin pillars, and these twin pillars are Satya and Ahimsa, truth and non-violence. And MK Gandhi continuously focused upon these concepts and vividly nurtured the concept of Satya and Ahimsa. Now around 1920, 21, 22, the non-cooperation movement was very successful. And there were various leaders of nationalist rank. They asked MK Gandhi that this is the right time that we can start another movement. And that movement is civil disobedience movement. Now MK Gandhi put forward certain demands before the Britishers that if you do not release the political prisoners immediately, then I will be starting civil disobedience movement. Like there were many satyagrahis who were being arrested by the Britishers during the non-cooperation movement. Now the properties of satyagrahis were being confiscated. They were being put behind the bars. They were being imprisoned. Although these satyagrahis were not guilty of violence, but still Britishers followed a brutal policy of suppression. Now MK Gandhi demanded that please release the satyagrahis who are not guilty of violence. By now, Britishers did not pay any attention or heed to the MK Gandhi, and the movement, non-cooperation movement, was revived. Now what happened further? Because of one incident, the entire movement, which was nurtured for past 3 years, was taken back. And that incident is referred as Chorichara Movement. Like Chorichara is a small it's a small village in the region of Gorakhpur district of UP. Now there were people who were protesting in front of liquor shop. They were picketing foreign clothes. And now what happened here at this point of time? Now Britishers, they started doing lathi charge on the people who were peacefully protesting in front of liquor shop. Now, excuse me. Now the people got very angry and now they started beating up these policemen. Now they put these 22 policemen into the police station and they burned down the entire police station. And it is said that 22 policemen lost their life. Immediately, MK Gandhi took back the entire movement and he said that people of India now need to understand what is actually ahimsa. Now, many nationalists were upset by the step that was taken by MK Gandhi because they believed that when a nationwide movement was going on in the entire nation and when Britishers followed a very brutal policy of suppression, the movement was not taken back at that time. Now, why MK Gandhi is taking back the movement at this time? So, there were certain sections of the Indian nationalist rank who were upset with the policy of the Britishers, excuse me, which was adopted now. And now it is said that basically these people parted away from the Congress and formed Swarajya Party or Congress Khilafat Swarajya Party. In 1927 came in India the Simon Commission. My friends, I have already talked about Government of India Act 1919 or Montego-Chelmsford Reforms 1919. In Montego-Chelmsford Reforms, I have mentioned one clause. And what was that clause? After 10 years, a commission would be appointed, which is going to review the working of the entire administrative setup. Now, this commission was appointed in 1927 itself. Like, it came 2 years prior to the completion of 10 years. Okay. Now, when Simon Commission came in India, it was greeted with black flag throughout India. Why it was greeted with black flag throughout India? Because Simon Commission had come in India to review the working of entire administrative setup in India. And you have come to review the working of entire administrative setup in India, and there was no single Indian member in the commission. It was completely an all-white commission. And wherever the Simon Commission went, it was greeted with black flag throughout India. That is, throughout India, it was greeted with black flag. Now it is said that Simon Commission conducted its work. When Simon Commission went to the region of Punjab, it is said that it went to Punjab, it went to Vijayawada, it went to Bombay, it went to Pune. Everywhere the slogans were raised, Simon go back, and black flags were being raised. Now Simon reached Punjab, and here Lala Lajpat Rai ji was taking care of the entire movement, and he was in the forefront basically to lead the movement against the Simon Commission. Lala Lajpat Rai ji succumbed lot of lathi blows on his chest, and because of this he died. This is Simon Commission. Now around 1930s, MK Gandhi, after this there was Nehru Report. After that, after the Nehru Report, there was Jinnah's 14-point plan, and MK Gandhi came up with 11-point ultimatum. He gave 11-point ultimatum to the Britishers, and he asked the Britishers that if you are not going to pay attention on these 11 points, I would be hell-bent to start a movement which is referred as what we say civil disobedience movement. Now, MK Gandhi initiated civil disobedience movement because Britishers hardly paid any attention. Britishers hardly paid any attention to the any of the ultimatum or any of the demands that was being put forward by the Britishers, Indians or Indian National Congress. And now MK Gandhi started what we say civil disobedience movement. Before starting civil disobedience movement, MK Gandhi launched Dandi March. Like on 12th March, he started the Dandi March, famous Dandi March from Sabarmati Ashram, along with approximate 80 to 85 satyagrahis. On the very first day, he covered 21 kilometers and he reached a local village called as Aslali in Gujarat. Here he addressed a crowd of 4,000. And from whichever place MK Gandhi was going, he was being joined by many people. Like one historian said that when the movement was going on, it looks like a white river is flowing. And finally, on 6th April, M.K. Gandhi reached Dandi. He picked up the salt and he said, "With this, I shake the foundations of British Empire in India." I repeat, with this, I shake the foundations of British Empire in India. And why did M.K. Gandhi choose salt as a medium? Because as per M.K. Gandhi, salt is most important commodity after air and water. And after this, he urged the nationalists of all the ranks to start the salt satyagraha wherever possible. Like K. Kelappan started a movement, excuse me, K. Kelappan started a movement in Kerala or Malabar. C. Rajgopalachari started the movement in Tamil Nadu, and many more other leaders. Now, it became quite difficult for the Britishers to control the civil disobedience movement, and a series of roundtable conferences were being arranged in London. The first roundtable conferences were attended by many political parties, but it was not attended by one of the major political party of India, that is Congress. And first roundtable conference was a failure. Okay, like it is said that more than 70 members attended the first roundtable conference. Now, at that time, the Viceroy of India was Lord Irwin, and Gandhi was in Yerawada jail. Now, there was a pact that was signed between Lord Irwin and M.K. Gandhi, and as per this pact, M.K. Gandhi accepted few demands of the Britishers that temporarily he is going to suspend civil disobedience movement, and Irwin also accepted certain demands of M.K. Gandhi. Okay, one of the demand was that you have to temporarily suspend this what we say civil disobedience movement, and you have to participate in the second roundtable conference. This pact in the history of modern India is referred as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Now, Gandhi participated in the second roundtable conference. Second roundtable conference was participated by more than 150 members from the Indian side. The women's section, the women's section was being represented by Sarojini Naidu. Excuse me. It was being represented by Sarojini Naidu. But it is said that second roundtable conference was also a failure because Britishers did not accept any of the demands of the Congress. And it is believed that M.K. Gandhi came back to Pavilion on duck. And again he revived the civil disobedience movement. Third roundtable conference was also a failure. Now, Muslim League participated in all the roundtable conferences. The depressed class was being represented by B.R. Ambedkar, and B.R. Ambedkar participated in all the three roundtable conferences. And M.K. Gandhi came to India and he revived the civil disobedience movement. Now, Britishers announced communal award, and as per communal award, basically the depressed classes were also given representation. M.K. Gandhi felt that this was nothing but Britishers were trying to divide India on the casteist line. Okay, they were trying to create a disunity among the Hindu society. And in Yerawada jail itself, M.K. Gandhi, what we say, started a fast unto death. And now B.R. Ambedkar was under immense pressure to tackle the situation. And now B.R. Ambedkar and M.K. Gandhi entered into a pact. This is referred as Pune Pact. Although B.R. Ambedkar and M.K. Gandhi entered into the pact was actually being signed by Madan Mohan Malviya ji. This is referred as Pune Pact. So this was the situation of India between 1919 to 1935. And Britishers were under immense pressure now to come up with an act which is much more meaningful and to come up with much more substantial reforms than the previous act. And now Britishers came up with Government of India Act 1935. It is also referred as Government of Burma Act 1935. And the Government of India Act 1935 is completely based upon the Roundtable Conference's report. It is based upon the report of Simon Commission. Then there was white paper of 1933, not 1833. Then report of certain joint committees. Like there were committees that were being created to study and analyze the further changes in the administrative setup in India. So that is nothing but Government of India Act 1935, which is also referred as Mini Constitution of India. My friends, did you understand the background? Please let me know. Ashok Communal Award is after third roundtable conference. Yes, thanks Monisha. I would be like it'll hardly take more 15 to 20 minutes now. Just give me 1 minute, guys. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Yes, thanks, Sirat. Thanks, Ashok. Yes, I'll be ending the session within just 15 to 20 minutes and then I'll take a rest. Thank you, guys. Now let's talk about the specific provisions. Let's talk about the specific provisions of Government of India Act 1935. Listen to me very, very carefully. Okay. Government of India Act 1935 is also referred as Government of India Act and Government of Burma Act. Okay. Now what had happened or what changes occurred as per this act, let us understand. Now, All India Federation at the center was created. Now our country is a federal country. Now what is the meaning of federal nation? In very simple words, we have a strong center and weak states. Now there is authority and there are power available to the provinces. There are power available to the states, but these power cannot supersede the powers of the center and the states. Okay, these powers cannot exceed the powers of the center. So this is called as federal legislature, and our federation is quasi-federal. Now the powers were divided in terms of three lists: federal list, provincial list, and concurrent list. Presently also we have three lists: union list, state list, and concurrent list. Who is going to make law on federal or union list? The center will make law on federal or union list. The state will make law on the provincial list, okay, and concurrent list. Both of them, center and state, can make law on the subjects mentioned in the concurrent list. But if the center is making law on the subject mentioned in the concurrent list, the central law will prevail in comparison to the provincial law or the state law. So there were three lists that were being introduced: federal list, provincial list, and concurrent list. Federal list is synonymous with present day union list. Provincial list is nothing but the state list, and concurrent list is there. As per Government of India Act 1919, diarchy was introduced in the provinces. Do you remember this, guys? And bicameralism was introduced in the center. Now things have changed. Diarchy in the provinces was completely abolished, and provincial autonomy was introduced. It means that provinces were given the freedom to make their own rules and regulation. The provinces were given the freedom to carry on the administration in their own manner. But there are certain provinces where bicameralism was also introduced. Like presently we have few states where we have two houses. Isn't that so? Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. Like in UP we have 2 houses, in Maharashtra we have 2 houses, in Karnataka we have 2 houses, that is Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. So there were certain provinces where diarchy was completely abolished in the provinces, and bicameralism was introduced in certain provinces like Bombay, Bengal, Madras, United Province, which is nothing but present day Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Assam. In these provinces, bicameralism was introduced. As per Government of India Act 1935, Federal Court, that is Supreme Court, was established at Delhi, because initially Supreme Court was established at Calcutta. But as per High Court Act 1861, it is said that the Supreme Court at Fort William was converted into High Court. Okay, and in 1911, the capital was transferred from Calcutta to Delhi. And now, as per Government of India Act 1935, Supreme Court or Federal Court was established at Delhi along with the Chief Justice and 6 other judges. So totally the number of judges were 7. One was Chief Justice of India and there were 6 other judges. Okay, there was increase in the size of the legislature. There would be special safeguard for the minorities, right of minorities. Proper attention would be given to the right of minority, safeguarding their script, safeguarding their culture. This clause is also reflected in the present day constitution in the article 29 and 30. Okay, there would be supremacy of the British Parliament, and here there was also focus on DPSP. DPSP is nothing but directive principles of the state policy. Along with the fundamental rights that are being given to the people, it is also the responsibility of the government to work for the welfare of the people. That is nothing but approach of DPSP, directive principles of state policy. As I have told you initially, guys, Government of India Act 1935 is also called as Government of India Act and Government of Burma Act. Why it is called as a Government of Burma Act? Because Burma was separated from entire India, and Burma will have its own constitutional setup. Burma will have its own administrative machinery, and separate rules and regulations would be framed for India, and separate rules and regulations would be framed for Burma. Okay, now All India Federation. Now let us understand this. There were 11 provinces in British India by now, and there were 6 chief commissioner states. What is 6 chief commissioner state? I have told you previously in my Modern India lectures that if any territory was acquired, newly acquired territory, it was put under a chief commissioner, and that chief commissioner would be directly reporting to the Governor General or the Viceroy of India. So now there were 11 British Indian states and 6 chief commissioners provinces. Okay, and there were more than 500 princely states. Now it was compulsory, I repeat, it was mandatory or compulsory for 11 British Indian states and 6 chief commissioner provinces to join the federation. But it is optional for the princely states. But if the princely states are ready to accede, if they are ready to join the federation, they have to sign instrument of accession. But if they are willing to come out of accession, if they are willing to secede from the federation, it is not possible. First of all, before joining the federation, the princely states have to sign instrument of accession. But after a particular time, if they believe that if they have to secede from the federation, this is not possible. And it is compulsory or mandatory for the British Indian states or chief commissionary states to be a part of what? To be a part of federation. Okay? Moving further. Excuse me. I had told you diarchy was completely abolished in the provinces and provincial autonomy was introduced. Okay. Now, if the diarchy was abolished at the provinces, where was the diarchy introduced? Diarchy was now introduced at the center. And I've already talked about this. What is diarchy? Okay. Diarchy basically means rule of two entity. One is Governor General and his Executive Council. And second is what? One is Governor General and his Executive Council. Second is Minister. The subjects are divided into two parts. Reserved subject and transferred subject. Who is going to make law on reserved subject? Governor General and his Executive Council, which will comprise of 3 members. And who is going to make law on transferred subject? The law on transferred subject would be made by popular ministers. So diarchy, which was initially in the provinces, was now abolished from the provinces and it was introduced in the center. Did you get the point still here, my friends? Please let me know. Yes, guys, please let me know. Yes, guys, did you get the points? Now, let us come to the federal legislature, or let us come to the center now. Okay. Bicameralism was also prevalent at the center as per Government of India Act 1919 as well. Okay. 1919 as well, which is referred as Montego-Chelmsford reform. Now, as per that reforms, we had discussed previously that there were 2 houses, Federal Legislative Assembly and Council of State. Now, Council of State is synonymous with present day Rajya Sabha. Pay attention properly. Council of State had it was an upper house. Okay. It is a permanent house. It cannot be dissolved. Okay. And every 3rd year, 1/3 of its member got retired. So it is a permanent house. So total number of member in Council of States was 260. I repeat, total number of members in Council of State is 260. What was the strength previously as per Government of India Act 1919? It was 60. I repeat, the number of members in the Council of State as per Montego-Chelmsford reform was 60. Now it has increased to how much? It has increased to 260. Okay. Initially 33 were elected and 27 were nominated. Here 156 members are coming from British Indian states. That is the provinces and Chief Commissioner state. And 104 are coming from princely state. Out of 156, 150 are elected and 6 are nominated. And there 33 were elected and 27 were nominated. I'll repeat the points again. Please listen to me patiently. Please listen to me carefully. Okay. Council of State is referred as upper house. Then it is a permanent house because 1/3 of its member retire every 3rd year. Now Council of State had 260 members. Out of 260, 156 were representatives from British Indian states and Chief Commissioner states. And 104 were from the princely state. Out of 156, 150 were elected and 6 were nominated. Now coming back to Federal Legislative Assembly. Now Federal Legislative Assembly had a tenure of 5 years. They had 375 members. And initially how many members were there? 145 members. Do you remember? Initially, Federal Legislative Assembly or Central Legislative Assembly had 145 members. Now, the total number of members in the Federal Legislative Assembly are 375. Out of 375 members, 250 are from British India and 125 members are from the princely state. I repeat, 250 members are from the British India and 125 members are from the princely state. And election, it is said that the Central Legislative Assembly or the Federal Legislative Assembly can be dissolved before the completion of its period, can be dissolved before the completion of its tenure. Okay. Now, 80% of the budget was kept non-votable. Franchisee was extended and women were also given the right to vote at par with the men. Federal Railway Authority was created, which consisted of 7 members. Sindh was separated from Bombay. Bihar was separated from Odisha, and complete separation of Burma from India. These are the major provisions of Government of India Act 1935. Did you understand this, my friends? Please let me know. Did you understand the comparative analysis of Montego-Chelmsford reforms and Government of India Act 1919 and Government of India Act 1935? Because in the end, guys, I'm going to ask you a few questions. So please listen to me very patiently. Please listen to me very actively. Yes, guys, did you understand this? Please let me know. Yes, guys. Did you understand the things? Okay. Now let us talk about India Independence Act 1947. Okay. Now after 1935, there was elections that was held in 1936. And Congress and Independent Labour Party of B.R. Ambedkar performed well in the elections. Now from 1939 to 1945, there was a strong movement that was going on in India. The reason behind that, it is said that from 1935 to 1945, Britishers were involved or they were engaged in World War II. And many sections of the Indian nationalists felt that it is a God-sent opportunity for us to start a revamped movement in India. And Subhash Chandra Bose ji, he said that this is a period where we can start a movement in India and it is a God-sent opportunity for us. And now M.K. Gandhi initiated a movement called as Quit India Movement, also referred as Bharat Chodo Andolan. And here it is said that various sections of the Indian nationalists participated in the movement. Now Britishers came up with various offers like August offer, then they came up with cabinet mission plan, they came up with Cripps mission here because they wanted to garner the support of Indians in the war. And now Britishers were ready to grant dominion status to India, but we people were ready with the complete independence theme with India. We wanted complete independence. We do not wanted dominion status. Dominion status basically means that we would be free to run our own administration, but certain aspects of the administration would be controlled by the Britishers and we would be attached with the Britishers. But now we want complete independence. We want complete detachment from the alien rule that is Britishers. And now a movement was started in India. Okay, after the World War II got over, there was a demand like Muslim League was creating a demand that they wanted a partition of India. And then came up India Independence Act 1947. And as per India Independence Act 1947, the country would be partitioned on 14th or 15th of August 1947. The country would be partitioned into two parts, that is Dominion of India and Dominion of Pakistan. A boundary commission would be appointed in the form of Red Cliff Commission, which would be demarcating the boundaries between the newly formed nation, that is India and Pakistan. There would be a separate boundary commission which would be appointed for demarcating the boundary between Punjab regions of Pakistan and Punjab regions of India, and Bengal regions of India and Bengal regions of Pakistan. That is, present day Bangladesh was initially with Pakistan, which is nothing but present day East Bengal. Okay. Now, this occurred as per this act. Now, there were certain regions of Punjab which were granted to Pakistan, certain regions of Punjab which came up with India, certain regions of Bengal which went to the Pakistan, and certain regions of Bengal which came with India. And two separate constituent assembly was created. One constituent assembly for India and second constituent assembly for Pakistan. And both the constituent assembly would be framing their respective constitutions. I repeat, both the constituent assembly would be framing their respective constitutions. Okay. And finally, India and Pakistan were being separated. And one more clause was there, that till the time being the constitution has been created, the government of India and the government of the Pakistan would be running in accordance with Government of India Act 1935. This is majorly about India Independence Act 1947. My friends, did you understand all the important acts that we have discussed today? Any question, any query, any doubt, please ask me. But I want all the concepts of the student should be completely clear, crystal clear. Because now I'm going to ask you few questions so that I can understand how many of you are actively and keenly listening to me. Yes, guys, are you ready with the questions? I'm going to ask you 7 to 8 questions so that I can understand that how many of you were keenly listening to me, and it would be again a sort of revision for you guys. Okay? Okay. My first question. Board of Control, which was established as per Pitt's India Act 1784, had how many members? I repeat, Board of Control, which was established as per Pitt's India Act 1784, had how many members? Yes, boggle up your minds as fast as possible. Yes, user, I'll try to take that part as well. I'll try to cover the budget and the economic survey. Yes, guys, please boggle up your minds. Answer fast. Yes, very good. It is 6. My next question is, as per which act, I repeat, as per which act, Governor General of Bengal was designated as Governor General of India? I repeat, as per which act, Governor General of Bengal was designated as Governor General of India? Yes, fast please. Yes, boggle up your minds, guys. Yes, my next question is, yes, very good. It is Charter Act 1833. My next question is, Muslims were given representation as per which act? I repeat, Muslims were given representation as per which act? Yes. Fast. Yes, very good, guys. It is given as per Indian Council Act 1909 or Morley Minto Reforms 1909. Very good. My next question. Okay. My next question, and it is an important one. The origin of Rajya Sabha can be traced to, I repeat, the origin of Rajya Sabha can be traced to which act? It's a very important one, and I have repeated this concept twice when I was teaching. Yes, guys, please boggle up your minds. Yes, it is Government of India Act 1919 or Montego-Chelmsford reforms. Okay, moving further. The initiation of ending the monopoly of English East India Company. I repeat, the initiation of ending the monopoly of English East India Company began from which act? I have not used the word complete abolition of monopoly. Initiation of ending the monopoly. It began from which act? Yes, boggle up your minds. It's a very easy one. Yes. It is, guys, Charter Act 1813. We have discussed the clauses of Charter Act 1813 in quite depth and detail. One of the clauses said that the monopoly of English East India Company was ended as per Charter Act 1813, but the monopoly was kept intact for tea and China. Do you remember that, guys? In Hindi, it is referred as chai and cheen. Just remember in that way. Okay. Yes, my next question. It's a very simple one. Diarchy was introduced in the provinces as per which act? I repeat, diarchy was introduced in the provinces as per which act? An easy one, guys. Yes, diarchy was introduced in the provinces as per Government of India Act 1919 or Montego-Chelmsford reforms. Very good. Bihar was separated from Odisha. Sindh was separated from Bombay province or presidency. And this occurred as per which act? Yes, guys, please boggle up your minds fast. It's a very easy question. This occurred as per which act? It is Government of India Act 1935. Okay. Yes. My next question. As per Civil Services Act 1861, if any person is aspiring to be a part of covenanted, what we say, civil services, how many years he should have resided in India? Yes, as per Civil Services Act 1861. Yes, guys, it's a very easy. We have discussed this one in a very systematic manner. How many years he should have resided in India? Yes, he should have resided in India for 7 years. Last three questions that I'm going to ask now. Last three questions. Which act is also referred as mini constitution of India? I repeat my question. Which act is also referred as mini constitution of India? Yes. It's an easy one, guys. Boggle up your minds. Yes, Government of India Act 1935 is also referred as Mini Constitution of India. My next question. Yes, one of the easiest question. Who was the first High Commissioner of India in England? Who was the first High Commissioner of Indian origin? I have used the word of Indian origin in England. This was as per which act? Who was he? I've asked you this question previously also when I was discussing the various act. Yes, guys, please boggle up your minds. It's an easy one. It is Dadiba Merwanji Dalal. We have discussed this, guys. Okay. We have discussed one act, Vernacular Press Act 1878. As per Vernacular Press Act 1878, which newspaper overnight became an English newspaper? I repeat, which newspaper overnight became an English newspaper? Jayashri, it is Dadiba Merwanji Dalal. Previous question. Yes, which newspaper overnight became an English newspaper, guys? We have discussed this in quite depth and detail in Vernacular Press Act 1878. Yes, perfect, guys. It is Amrit Bazar Patrika. Can you please name the 4 newspaper which had to stop the publications as per Vernacular Press Act 1878? Yes, guys. I have repeated this twice or thrice, I guess. Which are the 4 newspapers which had to stop the publications as per Vernacular Press Act 1878? Yes, please. It is Som Prakash, Dakka Prakash, Bharat Mihir and Samachar. I repeat, there were 4 vernacular newspapers which had to stop the publications as per Vernacular Press Act 1878. That is Som Prakash, Dakka Prakash, Bharat Mihir and Samachar. Okay, and my last and the final question is, yes, the last and the final question that I'm asking you, who was the first Governor General of Bengal? Very easy one. Yes, guys, it is Lord Warren Hastings who was the first Governor General of Bengal. So with this, I end my today's session. Hope so the session was informative. Hope so many of your doubts might be cleared, and hope so you like the lectures. So if you like my lectures, please do subscribe to Unacademy by using my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Please do like the lecture and please do subscribe to Unacademy by using my code. Thank you and have a very, very nice day. Bye-bye. Good night.